Today I wanted to talk about the seven deadly sins, and we can talk about them in order, as we can see that it goes with your house placements. So the first house is whatever zodiac sign you are, and it goes around the wheel from that. So number one is pride, number two is greed, your third will be lust, fourth will be envy, fifth will be gluttony, sixth will be wrath, and seventh will be sloth. Now, real quick, the seven deadly sins really has to do with the demons and what you feed. And since it's seven deadly sins, we know seven is that demon number. Now, demon doesn't necessarily mean bad, but it does mean all your greedy thoughts, all your selfish reasonings, And so when you put your house placements in that order, you can see that those are things, in so many words, you're supposed to do. So if you put that in there, you can see what house placements and what seven deadly sins match. Now, the first seven deadly sin is pride, and that is usually whatever zodiac sign you are, which is your first house. And basically, that is a zodiac sign that it has to do with, just feeling prideful, really, really proud about that. That's your thought process. And the first six zodiac signs are more internal, so you more internalize it. While the next six, zodiac signs, the last six actually show. You have to show, that out loud. So it's more of a thing that you have to actually prove to people and actually show evidence for. But that's why you have a lot of pride. So you see, your first house would basically be a prideful thing. The second seven deadly sin is greed, and that usually has to do with your second house, whatever your second house placement is. And greed is pretty much talking about your assets. The second house is really about your assets, like things that you use to sustain yourself. And the reason why it's greed is because you're talking about revenue, you're talking about profits, you're talking about things that actually are going to be, like your car and house, things that, help you have an abundance, and it could be seen as greed because, you're not, giving it all away and having the bare minimum. But really, you're supposed to, you can't really escape these seven deadly sins, but you can tame them, so you don't be over greedy, you don't want to be, greedy, but you want to be abundant, in so many words. And so, whatever second house placement you has, that has to do with the greed. Your third house, or the third seven deadly sin will be lust. And the third house really has to do with, everyday people and society at large. And so, when you go into society, you do have an affinity to lust after things, lust after, money, people's cars, their looks, all the things the flashy things that you see in society. So that it's not just lust of sexual pressure, but also lust of things, lust of status, lust of being famous, lust of being popular, just lust of being in the crowd or being a part of, a cool group or whatnot. So, trying to fit in, things like this, so that's one thing you have to actually watch out for, and the best thing to do is just, you want to not be swayed by, peer pressure when it comes to the lust thing. And so for the fourth deadly sin, we see that it is envy. And, the fourth house has to do with home or feeling at home. And we all want when we feel at home, we all want what we want. We don't want to feel uncomfortable, in so many words. And so what envy is about is just seeing out in the world other people, and, not just other people, but just in general, all your situations you come into contact with. If you don't feel comfortable, there's always a sense of envy because you're looking at other people that are maybe comfortable. So, one thing that you can do to fight that seven deadly sin for whatever is in your fourth house is to basically not be jealous of other people, to be content, to have gratitude for what you have and who you are and what you're going through, even if it seems like it's a hellish situation, something you can learn from, like a lesson. You have the fifth seven deadly sin, which is gluttony. And gluttony can be somewhat seen as greed, but it's not really greed. It's more like indulgence in the sense of what do you like do? What's your habits? What are the things that's habitual? Do you play video games all the time? Do you study all the time? What type of person you are? You have the fifth house itself, which is more of the sun sign energy, which is how you come across to the world. So basically, when people look at you and they can see you, what are you actually like doing all the time? And they might not exactly know what you're doing, but what are you actually doing all the time? That kind of sums up who you are as a person. Are you a warrior? Are you an empress? Are you a divine masculine, divine feminine? These are the type of things that you have to put into place, and be comfortable with them. And instead of letting them take control over you, you could take control over the definition of who you really are. Capitalize off of it. Say who you really are. So for the seventh deadly sin, we have wrath or anger. And when it comes to the sixth house or your sixth house, for the zodiac sign you have in that placement, you can see that the sixth house is really about mental health, about how do you mentally, organize your mind, because it's really body, mind, and soul. But how do you really get that all together when it comes to your mental health and how you see yourself and how you see the world, and how you see, like I said, your body, mind, and soul. So, when it comes to wrath and anger, it's really about, like nobody thinks like you, nobody is you. And so, in so many words, like you're always going to have compatibility, or, when it comes to dealing with other people, you're never going to completely agree with other people. So, there's always going to be a clash, there's always going to be some type of anger. But the thing about it is, you have to find the people that are most, like you, that's going to support you and that, will be in your corner. So the seventh house is pretty much dealing with a sloth, and sloth is really just laziness in so many words, or what you actually don't want to pay attention to, and you don't really want to work on. And that's why I say the seventh house is your demon number. It's really like your desires, your dark desires, but they're not really dark in the sense of evil, but selfish. And we all have to be a little bit selfish to get what we want in this world. Closed mouths don't get fed, as they say. But as you can see, you have to deal with this sloth in the sense of you cannot always just let things be when it comes to this. You have to take initiative. You have to actually do something about it. And the seventh house just itself, has to do a lot with, the way you come across, to the world. And so when it comes to that, you have to really take the initiative. And even if it seems like, you're doing more than you actually think you're supposed to.